Barcelona keep, sell, or loan. Welcome back, everybody. Haven't been able to make a video a bit, had some issues going on, but we're finally back. And I thought I'd make this video real quick. I wanted to make it sooner, but I think still is a good time because the transfer window is about open. And for Barcelona, since we're not in the Club World Cup, the board is not too frantic to sell or sign anybody. So I thought I'd take the first team, the main team that really played, throughout this season. I won't do any, youth players that are around the squad but didn't play, stuff like that. And especially because, there have been rumors going around for a few players already, but no one has really been sold besides today. I think it's been confirmed. Longley, his transfer, his contract was terminated, but like I said, he didn't play, this season. He was at Atletico. And got some rumors going around, for players like Fati, who they said was going to Monaco, but that hasn't been done yet. But anyway, let's get straight into it. We're going to start with the goalkeepers, starting with Inaki Pena. We're just going to put him straight into sell because, I think, he did have a good first half to the season, but, after Szczesny came in, after, there were reports that he was late for training and, him and Flick, didn't see eye to eye. He hasn't played since besides the last match, which I think he still did good. But, at the end of the day, he needs to go somewhere where he's going to get regular playing time where, because I think he is good enough to start for a team. For Barcelona, however, despite having a good half, I think, we can just find better options. And it is just better, to get some money for him and let him go. Szczesny, I'm going to put into keep because there has been, rumors that they're going to renew him. And that is pretty much confirmed. We're just waiting at this point to have the official announcement, but we're going to keep him because he did good. He is older, and with the rumors that John Garcia is going to come in, they're saying that maybe tomorrow or like within this week the release clause will be activated. He will sign his contracts, and keeping Szczesny as the backup, as the second goalkeeper, you have that experience in the Champions League, and especially just with how good he can be. But, as a backup, when he is called upon in those games, he can be reliable. So I will keep him. Then we go to Ter Stegen. If you follow my Twitter, you will know my opinion on this. He's going straight into sell. He did have, in the Nations League with Germany, wasn't the most perfect performance. But I wouldn't really say, the two matches that Germany ended up losing were his fault at all. I think he made some good saves. He did what he had to do. But ultimately for Barcelona, I think his time is up. You can see, especially with the reports, I take them with a grain of salt because I don't know if they're true or not. But you can see with the reports that it is just kind of toxic with him around. And, demanding that he played when he came back when, I don't think he really deserved it. And just, the two matches he did play at the end of the season were not good, especially that Villarreal match. That was terrible. I think we should have sold him a long time ago, but better late than never. And I think it is time to move on. I just don't think it would be good for the club to keep him. And you get some money for him, free up those wages, and you get Joan Garcia, who I believe is way better. I think it'll just be good for your club. And yeah, I keep him in sell. Now we get to the defenders, starting with Gerard Martin. And Gerard Martin is a weird case because he did improve later on in the season. He was doing better. But you can't see that he is just for Barcelona. I respect how much he tries. He does try his best. And, he does work hard. He is trying. But I just don't think he's Barca quality. I think if we weren't going to sign a left back, I would say keep him, for those, games that, Balde can't play him, for rotational purposes. But with rumors now that we can possibly sign Grimaldo, I just think that is a way better option. So I'm going to put him into sell because if you could sell him and get a way better left back option. I mean, when Balde got injured, in those games against Inter especially, that difference in quality was just way too big. The gap was just huge. So sell him, get a way better left back. There's rumors that Wolves could be looking to sign him, and I think that would be a good move for him. Where they rely a little bit less on the technical side. Where he is, a physical defender. He might be a little slow, but he is physical. It could suit that league very well. But yeah, I would sell him. Balde, obviously, we're going to keep Same with Inigo and same with Kubarsi. We could get those straight out of the way. Those three, so crucial. They were so good, especially Balde and Kubarsi. You know how good they are at such a young age. They're only going to improve, and they're some of the best, if not the best, in the world. Inigo especially had such a great season, and you know the fact we got him for free as well. He's a little bit older, but you know he still did great. He deserves to stay here after that. And yeah, not going to sell any of those three. Just untransferable. Now Araujo, there are reports that Hansi Flick does wants to keep him, and I think Araujo honestly he's just too error prone. That's the problem. He does have physical attributes that are really good, but I just don't think he suits the Barcelona team. And we saw with him trying to adapt to Hansi Flick's system hasn't really gone well, especially the games against Inter. Not going to say that it was all his fault. I think that's unfair to say that, oh, it was Araujo, he's the reason we got knocked out. I don't think that's the case. But he has shown time and time again he makes too many big errors. He is too clumsy, and just a big mistake is just waiting to happen with him. Especially we saw it in the Uruguay match that was played. He made a big mistake, give away a penalty to Paraguay. I know that's not Barcelona, but I just don't think he will suit the Barcelona team. And we could get a great big fee for him if we were to sell him. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if we were to sell him, we could get a good fee and get another defender. So I'm going to put him into sell. All right, now with Christensen. No, this is a case that for me is a bit conflicting because he was out for pretty much the whole season. He played against Valencia, then got injured after that, and couldn't play until May very late. I think he would have been a big help in the second match against Inter. I personally think he should have got subbed on instead of Araujo, but we're not here to talk about that. That's just my opinion. But the reason I do mention that is because in the games I did play at the end of the season, he was so good. It's as if he never left. He didn't need any time to adapt back to the team to get that fitness. He was just really good. And since he's been at the club, the past couple of years, he's been one of my favorite defenders. The ball playing, the IQ that he has, his ability, obviously to defend as a defender. He's really great. And I believe that, if we were to keep him and he can stay fit, he can be really great. He can be one of the best defenders in the world, and it's so crucial for Hansi Flick's system. But that is the issue, is that his ability to stay fit. Because if it happens like it did this season, where, he is great, but he gets injured, and then he can't play for the rest of the season, and now you're missing a defender, and you didn't buy another one, that is, not great for us. And especially with, the board, they're seeming like they want to sell him. You could get a good fee for him. It is really conflicting. I really want him to stay fit, and I don't want to sell him, but that's the issue, is the injury. I think before the season, he didn't really get injured. But, to have that long, it's kind of tough to say. So I'm going to put him into unsure and indifferent, just because I don't really know, if those injury issues are going to fix themselves. So, whatever the club decides to do, I will trust them. Eric Garcia, we are going to keep because, it's been tough for him, the first few years at Barca. He was under a heavy amount of criticism, but, Flick said, there were rumors that he was going to go to Como or get sold in January, but Flick said, no, I want to keep him. I think he could be a good part for the team. And, since he's been called upon, he's been really good. Every time he needs to play, or he be center back, he can play defensive midfield, and especially right back, where it was the area we were unsure of. He's put in a shift at right back. He's done really well. And, I think you keep someone like that. That's good for depth. And, you can just call upon, have rotational, with all the other players. Really good. We're going to keep him. Koundé, obviously, we're going to keep. I think he's one of the best right backs in the world. There are a few times, where he kind of, is not perfect, obviously, and does make some mistakes. But, he plays so much. I think if Flick can manage his minutes better, and, you can get, Eric Garcia to play more, or, maybe you call upon one of the youth players. I forgot what his name was. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But, I heard he's going to be calling preseason, young 18-year-old right back, or I don't know if he's right back, left back, but he could play a multitude of positions. But, you call upon maybe a youth player and, you manage him as well. Because when Kunle's at his peak, peak fitness, playing well, he's so, so great. And we felt it when he got injured. We felt, that we were missing him. Such a crucial player. So, yeah, keep him. Hector Fort, I'm immediately going to put into loan just because, Hansi Flick didn't seem to really trust him. When he played, I thought he did okay, didn't really show too much. I think he needs a loan. I don't want to sell him because I think you give him a loan to another team, where he can get regular, consistent minutes where he can improve, and then you assess and see how it is. You could always keep him, for depth purposes, but I think you do give him a loan, somewhere where he could play regular football and see how it goes, then assess it on there. Then we get into the midfield, and we're going to put all five of these guys into keep. Casado, De Jong, Gavi, Pedri, and Fermin, obviously. Now, these are all great midfielders. Casado, I think it is kind of sad for me to see how people were, downplaying the impact he had, when he was playing before De Jong came back from injury and really started improving and, cemented his place. I think people are downplaying too much. I think they're, criticizing or, calling Casado, a bad player when he really isn't. He's so, so great. You can't forget those performances, especially, a La Masia player, to have him when he's fit and can, come in for De Jong and have that other option, really, really good. De Jong obviously improved so much. He is, we're hoping that he can renew his contract. We could get a good contract that, isn't crazy wages. And, hopefully, he's going to separate from his agent that's been making it tough for us. Renew his contract, keep him because he's been improving. Gavi, obviously. Gavi had a tough season, I can't lie. But obviously, he's coming back from an ACL injury. He's not what he was before. But obviously, he needs that time to come back. And, when he does play, he gives it his all. He could be another option. Pedri, obviously, you do not touch. He is untransferable. Without him, like we've seen so many times, without him in the team suffers a lot. We see it for Barcelona and Spain, especially in the Nations League. We saw that they suffer a lot when he comes off. Untransferable. He's the best midfielder in the world, in my opinion. And Fermin, who is one of my favorite players on this team. Every time he comes in, he offers something different. He's very direct, very aggressive. He plays, with such passion and, that desire to have a killer instinct for goal. Offer us a lot. He's so clutch as well. Obviously, you keep him. He's only going to get better and better. And I'm hoping that he can be more consistent because this season he was a bit, he had such a great Olympics, and in the first half he was really struggling, but then that second half, he improved and really, really did well. So obviously you keep all five of those guys. Pablo Torre, I'm going to put in loan. I think he has the ability. I think he can be great, but he just barely played, and you can't be doing that. I think especially with all the midfield options we have, I don't see him getting any playing time, especially, but I don't want to sell him. I think you loan him, get him regular minutes because he is such a good player. And, you see how he does. Same with Hector Ford. You see how they do. And I think he has just a lot of quality, a lot of potential. Olmo, same thing with the other midfielders. I think you keep. A lot of people are, criticizing Olmo. I am as well because, I think in big games he has to do better, especially because he gets injured a lot. It feels like he's never fit. But I say keep him, my opinion, keep him for one more season. See how he does. Hopefully he can improve in big games because, when he is playing well, he is so crucial to this team. He's been a part of the comebacks, some great wins we had to win the league title. Keep him for one more season and see how he does. I just really am hoping he improve. If the same thing happens again, he's getting injured a lot, he doesn't show up in big games like he should, then, you could sell him, when the season ends or whatever. But keep him for one more season. Paul Victor, I'm going to put, I don't know. Honestly, when he came, he just, when he does get subbed on, he doesn't really do much. But then again, he's not, getting subbed in with, like, let's say, 30 minutes to go, 20 minutes to go to show what he has. He's getting subbed in where he has very few minutes to show what he can do. I'm going to say I'm unsure and indifferent just because I think he can. The quality can be there, but it's not enough where it makes me go, "Oh yeah, definitely keep or sell or loan." I don't really know. Whatever the board want to do with him, I'm content because, like I said, he just doesn't get enough minutes at the end to really show what he can do. So I'm going to keep him there. Fati obviously is a sell. It really breaks my heart what's happened with Ansu. The past few years at Barcelona, all the injuries, the criticism he's facing. But it is true, this season he didn't really get many minutes. Hansi didn't trust him. And before, in preseason, we were, hoping like, oh, maybe Flick can, change it, maybe do something. Flick was, excited, had a lot of trust in him. Then he got injured, and since then just hasn't been the same. When he does come on, he doesn't really show anything. He had that match against Mallorca, but even that wasn't anything where you go, oh, he definitely should keep him. It was just, a good performance or, show flashes of what he can do. But the other matches just hasn't shown anything. Like physically, he doesn't look sharp. Obviously, when you don't get minutes, you're not going to look sharp. But I think you just sell him, especially with Monaco interested. I think he is going to be sold loan with a buy option or whatever it is. I think you just have to cut your losses because I just don't think he's going to get any better. I hope he does well at a different team, but I just don't think you keep someone, especially with the high wages he has. I don't think you keep someone like that at Barcelona. Then we got the next four. And all of these four are going to go into keep just straight off the bat. Ferran improved immensely this season, showed that when he's called upon can really do well for us. And he, scored a lot of goals this season, in such short, the small amount of minutes he did have. He's improved so much on the flick. He, has that desire to work hard. And I think, he can keep improving upon, the next season. I don't think he would be a starting option, if we were to get a few other players in. Don't think he would be a starting option. But, to have him there, I think would be really good. Lamine and Rafinha, obviously those two you do not touch. You do not sell them. They were the best players in the world. Yamal, obviously 17, is about to turn 18 this year. Incredible Ballon d'Or candidate, and I think you can make a case that he can win it. I think everybody, is saying, other players too, professionals are saying, oh, he has to win the Ballon d'Or. And his performances show it. Generational talent, you can't compare anybody to him. People are trying to create rivalries that don't make sense because he's just in a league of his own. And Rafinha as well, under Flick, has taken just a different level. He's so clutch. He gets a lot of shit because, he's not that great on the ball. He's not like Lamine where he could be, a game changer and that's going to take on me. Like, it's so stupid. Like, he doesn't have to be an aesthetically pleasing player to the eye, where he's taking on multiple players and could be like Lamine or Pedri or someone. He has shown that he is so important, scoring goals, being so clutch. Just because he had a few games at the end where he was missing big chances and, not doing as well as he could, you gotta get someone that, can give him rest. A lot of players in this, like that you're seeing this keeper sell, a lot of them is just, their performances dip just because they don't have, our squad was so thin and, they didn't have the rest. Obviously, when they're tired, they're not going to perform as good as they should. But obviously, you keep Rafinha and Lamine. Those two, they cannot go. They were so good, and I just think they're going to improve. Lewandowski, I did put in keep. Only because I don't think you get rid of him. I think you keep him. The experience is there, especially how fit he keeps himself. My condition, however, is that you need to get someone else. He cannot be starting next year every single game as a 38-year-old striker. I know he, did so well, scored so many goals, and was so good for his age. But the fact of the matter is, when you watch the games, you can see the age is catching up to him. You get frustrated watching him because of the hold of play, whatever it may be, him on the ball, or, him missing chances that you shouldn't. We really need to get another player that, whether it be a younger striker, whether it be someone like, let's say, Rashford that can play left wing or striker, kind of do a Ferran thing, like a hybrid. Or you get someone that is just going to, be, take his place, basically, that can be more consistent, that is much younger. I think, what the team is going to do, I think what Laporta and the board are going to do is they're going to keep him and hold out for a year so that in 2026 in that summer they can spend big on a striker, whoever may be, Julian Alvarez, Isak, or the plethora of other options that will pop up. But I think you do gotta get somebody that is going to play more than him. I don't think you can play him every game, and that's just not good for him. He's going to get injured like he did at the end of the season, because he's just already in the twilight of his career. But yeah, anyway, that's my keeper sell. I just want to make that video real quick because it's been something I wanted to do, and there's so many transfer rumors going around, but I think now is a good time. We had a couple weeks since the last game of the season, and we can really assess the squad, especially after a couple of the international games. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think, who you would keep or sell, what you think about my list. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully, I can be more consistent now that I'm back home. But yeah, as always, Visca Barca, and let's enjoy the rest of this international break. I got a couple more videos, so I'll see you guys in the next one.